Imagine waking up to find your peaceful lakefront haven invaded by your own HOA, demanding the keys to your private gate, and then cops show up at your door. It was a cool, crisp autumn morning when I first sensed something was amiss. I was in the middle of my morning ritual, sipping a steaming cup of coffee while watching the sunrise dance across the lake when the doorbell rang. At first, I thought it might be the local paper delivery, but the knock was too insistent, too urgent. When I opened the door, there stood Linda, the HOA president, her tailored blazer and impeccable pearls giving her an air of authority that was hard to ignore. But the look in her eyes was cold, and her voice had an edge. "We need a key to your gate," she said without preamble. "It's the only way to ensure community access to the lake." I paused. My heart thumped as I struggled to piece together her words. My gate had been installed only to protect my property, a decision made after weeks of frustration dealing with careless passers-by who treated my yard like a dumping ground. I calmly replied, "I'm sorry, but according to the county records and my deed, my property is private." Her eyes narrowed, and I could sense the shift in the air. A quiet storm was about to break. Linda didn't leave immediately. Instead, she lingered, her tone turning threatening as she recounted how previous homeowners, like Jonathan, had been fined thousands for violating community standards. The implication was clear. I was expected to comply without question. When I firmly mentioned that I would be consulting my attorney, her face turned a shade redder. "You'll regret this," she muttered as she stormed off, leaving behind an uneasy silence in my hallway. I spent the rest of that morning double-checking every document in my possession, reaffirming that the gate, and the pathway behind it, was indeed private property. The county maps were crystal clear, and I felt a mix of anger and determination well up inside me. I wasn't about to let my neighborhood's so-called protectors bully me out of my rights. That very evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the lake turned a mysterious shade of blue, I settled into my favorite armchair with a book. My phone buzzed unexpectedly. At first, I ignored it, thinking it might be a routine notification. But the alert from my home security app sent chills down my spine. I switched to live view, and what I saw was like something out of a thriller movie. There, illuminated by the harsh glow of a security light, were 3 figures creeping near my back gate. I squinted. Those weren't random trespassers. It was Linda again, accompanied by Tom, the HOA treasurer, and Mark, the facilities manager. They were attempting to cut the lock on my gate with bolt cutters. I quickly grabbed my phone and began recording, my heart pounding as I dialed 911. Officer Ramirez arrived within minutes. He walked with a calm authority as he inspected the scene, scratch marks on the lock, disturbed soil, and the still recording video evidence on my phone. "This is a serious case of attempted breaking and entering," he told me. His stern words sank in, and I knew that the HOA's actions were no longer just bullying, they were criminal. The next morning, I woke up to a series of letters in my mailbox. Each envelope bore a violation notice, citing bizarre infractions, from my fence height to the color of my mailbox, even the design of my garden border. Every notice carried an intimidating fine that would accumulate daily. It was clear, the HOA was trying every trick in the book to force me into submission. Determined not to be intimidated, I scheduled an appointment with my attorney, Rachel, a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer with a reputation for standing up against corporate overreach. Over coffee at a local diner, we pored over every piece of evidence, the security footage, my property deeds, and the slew of violation notices. "You're in the right," she assured me. "They've overstepped every legal boundary possible." Armed with this newfound confidence, I decided it was time to confront the issue head-on at the next HOA meeting. The HOA meeting was held at the community clubhouse, a dated yet imposing building that always smelled faintly of polished wood and stale air. I arrived early, clutching a thick folder of documents and my phone loaded with the incriminating video footage. I could feel every pair of eyes in the room as I took a seat, my nerves steeled by the thought of justice. Linda took the stage, her voice smooth and condescending. "We are here to discuss maintaining community access," she declared, dismissing any notion that my gate was private. I stood up calmly. With all due respect, according to county records and my property deed, the gate is on my private property. I have every right to secure it." The room fell silent, a palpable tension building among the homeowners. A murmur ran through the crowd as Linda tried to assert that long-standing traditions, alleged, established use of the path, gave her board the authority to demand keys. I countered by reading directly from my property records, explaining that tradition did not override the law. Just then, Officer Ramirez arrived at the clubhouse, summoned by a concerned neighbor who had seen the security footage online. His presence silenced any remaining dissent from the board. Linda's face paled as she realized the tide was turning. But the board wasn't done yet. One by one, residents began sharing their own stories of harassment, excessive fines, sudden changes in community rules, and even whispered threats of foreclosure. It wasn't long before the room transformed into an arena where the truth was laid bare. Over the next few weeks, what began as my personal battle grew into a full-scale investigation into the HOA's practices. Carol, a retired accountant with a keen eye for detail, came forward with stacks of financial records that revealed irregularities, funds that simply didn't add up, along with payments to unknown vendors. Whispers of embezzlement and corruption spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. I organized small group meetings with my neighbors. Over late-night phone calls and weekend gatherings, we compiled a trove of evidence. Photographs of altered property maps, suspicious bank transactions, and even internal emails among board members painted a damning picture. The more we uncovered, the more it became clear. The HOA was not just overreaching, they were systematically enriching themselves at the expense of our community. One particularly striking evening, as I was reviewing another batch of documents, I received an anonymous email with the subject line, "The Truth About Community Access." Inside was a scanned copy of a new, glossy HOA brochure that prominently featured a map of our lakefront, boldly advertising my private gate as a community amenity. The audacity was staggering. I shared this evidence with Rachel and our small band of dedicated neighbors. We decided it was time to take legal action, not just for my own sake, but for the entire community that had suffered under the board's heavy-handed tactics. The case quickly escalated into a legal showdown that captured local media attention. Headlines screamed about HOA corruption and illegal intimidation tactics, and soon, our quiet lake community was thrust into the spotlight. I appeared in local news segments, my voice steady as I recounted the ordeal, urging other homeowners to stand up for their rights. In court, Rachel presented our evidence methodically. The judge, a seasoned man with a reputation for fairness, listened intently as witness after witness recounted their experiences. Testimonies from neighbors who had been unfairly fined, from Carol with her financial records, and even from Officer Ramirez about the attempted break-in all contributed to a mountain of evidence against the HOA board. During the proceedings, Linda's confident facade crumbled. She was forced to admit that the board had manipulated documents, imposed fines without proper cause, and even attempted a break-in on my property. It was a turning point not only for me, but for every resident who had felt the weight of arbitrary penalties and overbearing rules. As the court delivered its verdict, the community erupted in a mix of relief and righteous anger. The judge ruled that the HOA had overstepped its legal bounds and ordered an immediate cessation of all harassment tactics. More importantly, he mandated a complete audit of the board's financial dealings and the formation of a new, democratically elected board that would be accountable to the residents. In the months that followed, our neighborhood underwent a remarkable transformation. The old board members were held accountable, facing fines, having to return misappropriated funds, and even criminal charges in some cases. A new board was elected, one that valued transparency, fairness, and community input. Weekly HOA meetings became platforms for genuine dialogue rather than sessions of intimidation. Neighbors who once lived in fear now spoke up, sharing ideas for community improvement and working together to restore trust. The previously divisive lake access issue evolved into a project for the greater good. A new community access point was designed, complete with a fishing dock, picnic areas, and a kayak launch. ensuring that everyone could enjoy the lake without infringing on private property rights. Every time I walk past that gate, now securely locked as it once was, I am reminded of the incredible journey we all went through. I see familiar faces, neighbors who once hesitated now greeting me with warm smiles and friendly nods. The lessons we learned were profound: the power of community, the importance of knowing your rights, and the value of standing up even when the odds seem stacked against you. Looking back on that turbulent period, I realized that what began as a simple demand for a gate key turned into a catalyst for change. I was no longer just a homeowner defending my property. I had become a symbol of resistance against corruption and injustice. And while the scars of that battle still linger in memories and in the faded marks on my gate, they also serve as a testament to the fact that when we come together, we can reclaim our community. I share this story with you not to boast about my victory, but to remind everyone that our homes are our sanctuaries, and no one has the right to intimidate us out of our own space. Document everything, know your rights, and never be afraid to stand up for what's right, even if it means facing down an entire board. Because sometimes it only takes one brave homeowner to swing open a gate, and with it, the door to justice and true community spirit.